I was 31 years old standing on the front porch of my parents' six-bedroom house in Cherry Creek, Denver, with snowflakes the size of quarters melting on my eyelashes. It was the night after Thanksgiving 2023 -15 with the wind chill and the heavy oak door had just slammed so hard the wreath jumped off its hook. "Don't come back until you get a real job." Riley Dad's voice still echoed through the frosted glass. "We're done carrying dead weight." I didn't have my coat. I'd left it on the entry bench when I walked in 4 hours earlier thinking we were just having pie. My phone was in my hand gloves still in the pocket of the coat I no longer had. All I could do was stare at the doorbell camera that had just recorded the whole thing, the red light blinking like it was laughing at me. Behind that door, my little sister Maddie, to everyone who worshipped her, was probably sipping what was left of the Skriegel Cabernet, smirking the same half-smirk she'd worn all night while Dad tore into me. Mom was probably already wiping the dining table like nothing happened because messes, emotional or otherwise, get cleaned up fast in the Harper house. I should have been crying. I should have been shaking. Instead, he felt clear. Like someone had just opened a window in a room I'd been suffocating in for 13 years. Let me rewind for a second so you understand how insane this moment actually was. I dropped out of CU Boulder in 2010 halfway through freshman year. 18 years old, no plan, just a MacBook Air and a conviction that the marketing classes I was paying $40,000 a year for were already 5 years behind what I was teaching myself at 2 a.m. on Reddit and growth hackers. I told my parents I was leaving school to start a growth agency. Dad called me a college dropout disgrace. Mom cried for 3 days straight. Maddie, 15 at the time and already accepted early decision to Wharton, rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. For the next decade and a half I kept my mouth shut about money. Every time I flew first class I told them it was points. When I bought the 3200 square foot loft in RiNo outright cash, no mortgage, I said I was house sitting for a friend. When my agency crossed 8 figures I still let them believe I was scraping by on freelance. Why? Because the one time I tried to tell them the truth, Christmas 2017, when I was 25 and quietly doing 7 figures, Dad laughed in my face. Actually laughed. "Sure, Riley. And I'm the King of England." Maddie posted a photo of us that night with the caption, "Family is greater than flexing." I let it go. I figured silence was easier than trying to convince people who'd already made up their minds. So yeah, I swallowed every insult. Every Thanksgiving where Dad bragged about Maddie closing a $9 million portfolio for some tech bro in Cherry Hills while side-eyeing me like I was the hired help. Every time Mom introduced me as Riley, she's still figuring things out. I smiled past the mashed potatoes and went back to my loft with the floor-to-ceiling windows and the heated Italian tile floors they'd never seen. Tonight was different. Tonight Dad didn't just insult me. He evicted me. From a house I hadn't lived in since Obama's first term. At 31. In front of the sister who'd spent years curating the perfect LinkedIn, the perfect Instagram grid, the perfect life everyone in Denver wished they had. I took one last look at the porch light, the same one Maddie and I used to leave on when we were kids, sneaking in past curfew, and walked down the salted steps. My breath hung in front of me like smoke. My Cybertruck was parked 2 houses down because the driveway had been full of Maddie's new Lexus, the one I now suspect my own forgotten joint account helped pay for. I hit the key fob. The Falcon doors lifted like wings. I slid into the driver's seat, the heated everything kicked on instantly, and for the first time all night I laughed. A real laugh, the kind that starts in your belly and scares you a little. 3 months, I thought, watching the snow pile on the windshield before the wipers swept it away. That's all I need. Because they had no idea, not the slightest clue, who I actually was. And I was done protecting them from the truth. Thanksgiving 2023 started like every Harper Thanksgiving for the last decade: too much wine, too many passive-aggressive jabs, and the unspoken rule that nobody was allowed to ruin Karen Harper's tablescaping. The dining room in Cherry Creek smelled like sage brown butter bourbon and the same tension that had been simmering since I was 18. Crystal glasses clinked. Mom's pumpkin chiffon pie sat under a glass dome, like it was in a museum. Dad Greg was already on his 3rd glass of Screaming Eagle, the one he only opens when he wants everyone to know he can afford a $4,000 bottle. Maddie sat across from me in a cream cashmere sweater that probably cost more than most people's rent. Her hair was that perfect expensive blonde that takes 3 hours at a Cherry Creek salon. She kept checking her Apple Watch Ultra like the world couldn't survive without her for 5 minutes. Everything was fine until Dad decided it was time for his annual family check-in. He set his glass down hard enough that the Riedel stem wobbled. "Riley," he started the way he always does when he's about to say something he thinks is helpful, "you're 31 now." I felt it coming like a Colorado blizzard you can smell in the air 2 hours before it hits. 31, he repeated louder, "and you're still playing around with that, whatever you call it. Instagram ads, growth hacking." He waved his hand like he was swatting a fly. "When are you going to grow up and get a real job?" Mom made that little disapproving noise she perfected in 2010. "Greg, it's Thanksgiving." "No, Karen, it's time somebody said it." He turned back to me, cheeks red from the wine and the fireplace. "Your sister is 28 and just made VP at Merrill Lynch." VP? Do you even know what that means? She manages tens of millions for people who actually built something. Maddie lifted one perfectly microbladed eyebrow and gave me the pity smile that had been her signature move since middle school. "Dad, come on. It's not a competition," but her eyes said it absolutely was. I put my fork down. The prime rib suddenly tasted like cardboard. Dad wasn't done. "We've been patient, Riley. We paid for Boulder, you threw it away. We let you figure yourself out for 12 years. Enough. I'm cutting you off. No more emergency credit card, no more just-in-case checks. Nothing. Until you get a real job with benefits and a 401k, you're on your own." The emergency credit card he was talking about, I hadn't used it since 2013. The last just-in-case check was $1,000 in 2016 that I never cashed. But facts never mattered in this house. I looked at Mom. She was staring at her plate like the garlic mashed potatoes might save her. I looked at Maddie. She was sipping her wine, lips curled in that tiny satisfied smirk she probably practiced in the mirror. Something inside me clicked. Not anger. Not even hurt anymore. Just finality. I pushed my chair back. The legs scraped loud against the hardwood. Dad kept going. "And don't think you can just crash here whenever you feel like it anymore. This isn't a hotel for failed experiments." Maddie finally spoke, soft and sweet like poisoned honey. "It's not too late to get an MBA, sis. Wharton has an executive program. I could write you a recommendation." That was it. I stood up, napkin still in my lap, sliding to the floor. My voice came out calm. Calmer than I felt. "Okay," I said. "You won't hear from me again." Dad barked a laugh. "Good, maybe living in the real world will finally." I didn't wait for the rest. I walked straight through the foyer, past the framed Wharton graduation photo of Maddie shaking hands with some dean, past the coat closet where my Patagonia was hanging. I didn't stop. I opened the front door and stepped into the Arctic blast. The door slammed behind me. I heard Dad shout something else, but the wind swallowed it. -15. The kind of cold that burns your lungs. Snow was already sticking to my eyelashes. I was wearing a thin black turtleneck and jeans. No coat. No hat. Nothing. I walked down the heated driveway because of course the driveway was heated, and didn't look back. 2 houses down, my Cybertruck sat under a street lamp, matte black against the whiteout. I hit the fob. The doors lifted like it was welcoming me home. I climbed and shut the door and just sat there while the cabin warmed to 75 degrees in 30 seconds. The seat heaters kicked on. The steering wheel warmed under my frozen fingers. Through the panoramic glass roof I could see the soft yellow glow of my parents' house. Perfect. Warm. Fake as hell. I rested my forehead against the warm leather of the wheel. 3 months, I thought again. 3 months, and they would never speak to me like that again. Because I was done being their punchline. The first text came exactly 12 days after Thanksgiving while I was on a 7 a.m. call with a founder in San Francisco who wanted to pay my agency 8 figures to scale his AI notacker from 40K MRR to IPO. The message was from Lauren Cho. We'd been on the same high school soccer team. She now sold $7 million houses in Wash Park. "Lauren, hey, people are saying some stuff. Just checking, are you okay? Someone told me you're couch surfing. Call me if you need anything." I stared at the preview bubble for half a second, thumb hovering, then muted the thread. I had a term sheet to sign. The second one came from my mom's best friend Susan, who apparently still had my number from the 2012 graduation party she threw for Maddie. "Susan, sweetheart, your mom is heartbroken. She told the brunch club you two had to do tough love. Whatever happened, family forgives. Just reach out. We're all worried." I almost laughed out loud in the middle of Lodo's newest coffee shop. Heartbroken. Right. By the end of that week, the rumors had legs, heels, and a Birkin bag. Asterisk Cherry Creek Pilates WhatsApp group. Did you hear Riley Harper got kicked out? Greg finally put his foot down. Asterisk. The Merrill Lynch Denver office, Maddie's kingdom, Madison's sister, is basically homeless now, so sad. Asterisk. Even the barista at Little Owl in Platt Park asked me with the most gentle voice if I needed the back office to store any bags while I got back on my feet. And then came the pièce de résistance, Maddie's Instagram story. I only saw it because my business partner screenshot it before she could archive. Black and white photo of Maddie sitting on her balcony overlooking Cherry Creek with a mug that said blessed. Caption in that perfect white font: she pays someone $800 a month to curate. Some seasons are heavier than others. Praying for my big sister, she's really struggling right now and could use all the light you can send. Love you always, DRD number, family first number, grateful heart. The story had 11000 views in 6 hours. Half of Denver's finance tech real estate crowd reposted it with crying emojis and sending love. I sat at my standing desk in the RiNo loft, snow piling against the 14-foot windows, and laughed so hard my abs hurt. Then I opened the story myself, long pressed her name and hit block. Mom next. Dad next. Family group chat mute, leave block. Done. Phone clean. I closed Instagram, opened Notion, and stared at the deal memo glowing on my 49-inch ultrawide. $11.4 million upfront, $18 million earnout if we hit the KPIs. Equity kicker. Largest contract in agency history. I signed it with the Apple Pencil at 4:17 p.m. on a Tuesday while half the city was busy pitying the homeless college dropout version of me that only existed in their group chats. That same night I got a Google alert. I'd said it years ago, for my own name, vanity is useful. Top result: a post in the private Facebook group, Cherry Creek Moms and Mimosas. Karen Harper had commented under someone's prayer hand emoji, "Thank you ladies. It's the hardest thing we've ever done, but sometimes you have to let them hit rock bottom, so they'll finally grow up. We're trusting God's plan." 92 likes. 43 heart reacts. 17 comments telling her how brave she was. I closed the laptop, poured myself a glass of the 2016 Opus One I'd been saving, and toasted the skyline. Let them talk. Let them think I was sleeping in my car, or worse. Every time they spread that story, they were writing the ending for me. Because the higher they built the myth of poor broken Riley, the harder the truth was going to hit when it finally dropped. And I had exactly 10 weeks left on my private countdown. 10 weeks until the podcast. 10 weeks until the Forbes list. 10 weeks until the quiet little LLC I'd set up in Wyoming bought my father's entire failing life out from under him. I raised the glass toward the orange glow of downtown Denver glittering through the snow. "Keep praying, Maddie," I whispered to the empty room. "You're gonna need it." Then I turned off the lights, opened my revenue dashboard, and got back to work. The city could gossip all it wanted. I was too busy becoming undeniable. December 23, 2023. 2 days before Christmas, I was in the middle of a war room call with the San Francisco AI team when my phone started blowing up with a number I didn't recognize. Colorado area code. I muted myself and let it go to voicemail. The second time it rang, I stepped out onto the balcony of my RiNo loft, wind whipping off the Platte River hard enough to rattle the glass railing. "Miss Harper, this is fraud prevention at Chase Private Client. We're seeing 4 unusual withdrawals on your joint savings account ending in 4,419. Total of $28,000 over the past 10 days. Can you verify?" I hadn't thought about that account in 12 years. It was the one my parents opened when I was 16, Riley's college fund. They put in $5,000 the day I got into CU Boulder. I added another 12 from random graphic design gigs senior year. Then I dropped out and the account just sat there. Dormant. Forgotten. I told the Chase rep I did not authorize any withdrawals and asked for details. She read them off like she was reading a crime report. Asterisk December 12, $7, 200, in-person Cherry Creek branch. Asterisk. December 15, $6, 800, same branch. Asterisk. December 18, $7, 000. Asterisk. December. $27, 000. All cashier's checks made out to Park Place Lexus of Greenwood Village. I felt the cold hit my bones harder than the wind. I asked for the security footage. Chase emailed it within the hour, 4 separate clips, high-res time-stamped. Clip 1: Mom walking in wearing the exact same Camel Max Mara coat she'd bragged about at Thanksgiving. Smiling at the teller like they were old friends. Signing the withdrawal slip with the same loopy K she used on birthday cards. Clip 2, 3, 4, same coat, same smile, same signature. $28,000 gone in under 2 weeks. I sat on the heated concrete floor of the balcony, legs crossed, watching the videos on loop. The city sparkled below me, Christmas lights blinking on every high-rise. Somewhere down in Cherry Creek, a brand new 2024 Lexus NX in caviar black was probably sitting under a giant red bow with Maddie's name on it. My phone buzzed again. This time a text from Mom's number. I'd blocked it weeks ago, but she was using Dad's phone now. Mom, via Dad's phone, honey. Before you get upset, the money in that old account was just sitting there doing nothing. Maddie's bonus got delayed because of year-end paperwork, and she really needed the deposit on her new car before the end of the month. It's a Christmas gift from all of us. You never use that account anyway. Family helps family, right? We'll put it back when her bonus hits in January. Love you. Call me. 3 heart emojis. A Christmas tree. A praying hands. I read it twice. Then I screenshot everything, texts, bank statements, video stills, with timestamps, and dropped them into a folder labeled insurance. I didn't reply. Not a single word. Instead, I opened my Chase app, removed myself as joint owner, transferred the remaining $11.47 to my business account, and closed it permanently. The rep asked if I wanted to file a police report for fraud. Not yet, I told her. I'll handle it personally. That night I walked to Avanti in Lodo, ordered a double mezcal neat, and sat at the bar watching the snow pile up outside. The bartender tried small talk about holiday plans. I just smiled, and said I was keeping it quiet this year. Quiet. That's exactly what I was giving them. They thought they'd taken something from me. 28 grand was pocket change now, less than I made in a single day when my retainers hit. But the violation, the casual way Mom treated my money like a family ATM while simultaneously telling the entire city I was homeless. That was the last straw I needed. I finished the mezcal, left a $100 tip, and walked home through the silent streets. In the elevator up to the loft, I made 2 decisions. First, I moved the timeline up. The big reveal wasn't coming in 10 weeks anymore, it was coming in 6. Second, when it did come, that $28,000 was going to feel like the most expensive Christmas gift anyone in the Harper family had ever received. I stepped inside, kicked off my boots, and opened my laptop. Subject line of the email I started drafting to my lawyer. Let's make sure every penny is traceable. I hit save. Outside, Denver kept falling quiet under the snow. Inside, the countdown just went from months to weeks. January and February disappeared like Denver snow under a Chinook wind, fast, quiet, and lethal. I didn't post. I didn't answer the random "Are you alive?" texts from high school acquaintances. I didn't even tell my best friend Ava the full plan. I just worked, watched, and weaponized silence. First move, I called Marcus Delgado, ex-FBI, now the most expensive private investigator in the Mountain West. We met at 6 a.m. in the back corner of Huckleberry Roasters on Tennyson. No laptops, no phones on the table. Cash envelope. Everything you can get me on Greg and Karen Harper, Madison Harper, and anything tied to Harper Custom Homes, I told him. Especially the Aurora project. Marcus didn't ask why. He just nodded, took the envelope, and 48 hours later slid a black USB drive across the same table. The files were a masterclass in impending collapse. Dad had personally guaranteed $4.2 million on a 240-unit luxury condo development off I-70 inches Aurora. The skyline at Aurora Heights. Construction loans were due March 31st. Pre-sales were at 38%. The lender, a hard money shop out of Dallas, had already sent the first default notice. 60 days to cure or they seize everything, including Dad's remaining equity and his personal assets. Maddie's section was almost beautiful in its chaos. $87, 400 inches revolving credit card debt across 8 cards, Amex Platinum, Black Card, Chase Sapphire, even a Neiman Marcus card at 29.9% APR. She was 2 payments behind on her $4,800 divided by month lease at the Glass House in Riverfront Park. Her Merrill Lynch pay stubs showed solid base, but commissions had dried up after a rich client moved to Goldman. Garnishment letters were already in the mail. I closed the folder, paid Marcus the second half in cash, and went home to build. While Denver froze, my agency caught fire. January 14, seven-figure annual contract with a Series C AI cybersecurity company in SF. January 28, second seven-figure deal with a consumer health unicorn out of Austin. February 10, third with a fintech startup that just raised $180 million at a $2 billion valuation. Revenue went from $22 million run rate to $29 million overnight. I hired 40 people in 6 weeks, growth strategists, media buyers, creative directors, and took the entire top floor of a new building in Dairy Block. Glass walls, mountain views, espresso bar, the whole flex. Nobody in my family would ever see it. On Valentine's Day, while Maddie was probably posting some sponsored rosé crap, I closed on my second RiNo loft, 2,900 square feet raw brick, 18-foot ceilings, private rooftop with hot tub and fire pit. Paid cash. $4.1 million. Title under an LLC nobody could trace back to me in under 30 seconds. I spent 3 weeks renovating Scandinavian minimalist smart everything, the kind of place that photographs like a museum. Listed it on Airbnb and Turo the first week of March under RiNo Cloud Loft. Average nightly rate $1,399. Booked solid through August. Projected passive income $42K a month after cleaning and taxes. Every night I came home to the first loft, poured a glass of wine, and opened the same Notion board titled March 31st. It had 4 columns. 1. Financial triggers, stats, default clock, 48 days left. 2. Public moves, podcast recording done, Forbes submission submitted. 3. Real estate, Wyoming LLC funded acquisition, attorney on retainer. 4. Exit, family contact 0. 0 felt good. Clean. Surgical. I ran 6 miles every morning along the Cherry Creek Trail while the city was still asleep. I ate at the same 3 restaurants where nobody knew my last name. I turned down every happy hour, every let's catch up coffee. When people asked what I was working on, I just smiled and said, something big. Marcus sent weekly updates. February 18th, dad laid off half his construction crew. February 25th, Maddie's Lexus got a boot in the glass house garage for unpaid tickets. March 1st, mom started selling old Hermes bags on the real desperation move. I saved every email. On March 3rd, the lender officially filed the notice of default in Adams County. Public record. Game on. I was in the back of an Uber Black on the way to the airport for a quick trip to San Francisco when my assistant forwarded me the final piece. The Dallas lender was quietly shopping the note. Asking price 62 cents on the dollar. I told my attorney to offer 58, cash, 48-hour close. No contingencies. We wired the deposit before I landed at SFO. 2 months of silence had built the perfect trap. And the door was about to snap shut. The 17th of March 2024. St. Patrick's Day. Denver was hungover in green glitter, and I detonated the quietest nuclear bomb the city had ever felt. At exactly 5:00 a.m. Mountain Time, the new episode of The Dropout Millionaires went live. Title: She Dropped Out at 18. Built a $29M growth agency and her own parents still think she's homeless. Cover art: me in a black blazer against the RiNo mural at 38th and Walnut Arms, cross Denver skyline behind me. The headline in bold white: Riley Harper, The Invisible Empire. By 7:30 a.m., it was the Hashon business podcast in the country. I was on a treadmill at my building's gym when the first wave hit. My phone started vibrating so hard it fell off the cup holder. 187 new LinkedIn notifications. 68 texts. 41 missed calls, 17 of them from mom's cell, even though she was blocked. She'd switched to burner apps now. Slack exploding from the team. We're trending on Twitter in Denver, SF, and Austin. I finished my cool-down, showered, and opened Spotify. The episode was already at 1.4 million downloads and climbing. The host Jake Nguyen had let me tell the whole story, no filter. I talked about dropping out of Boulder with $3.800 inches the bank. I talked about cold emailing my first client from a Starbucks in Cap Hill and closing a $7K divided by month retainer. I talked about hitting $1M in revenue at 23 while my dad still asked if I needed gas money. And yes, I talked about Thanksgiving. About the slammed door. About the rumors. I never said their names, but anyone who'd ever been within 50 feet of Cherry Creek knew exactly who I meant. By noon the episode was being clipped and stitched all over TikTok and Instagram. Number. Dropout millionaires, number Denver tech, number family drama. Then Forbes dropped the second punch. I'd been submitted months earlier by an investor who owed me a favor. The email came at 2:07 p.m. Subject. Congratulations. Forbes 30. Under 30 North America, 2024, my photo, same RiNo shoot on the cover of the digital issue tagged Denver CO. The bio read Riley Harper 31 founder and CEO Harper Growth Partners, 2023 revenue $29 million. She built one of the fastest growing agencies in the Mountain West while her family spread rumors she was homeless. The internet lost its mind. Denver Twitter became a war zone. Asterisk. Wait, Riley Harper is that. Harper, sister. I thought she was the broke one. Asterisk. Just saw Maddie Harper at Cherry Creek Mall looking like she'd seen a ghost. Asterisk. Someone send this to Karen Harper's brunch club as soon as possible. I watched it all from the 27th floor conference room while my team opened champagne at 3 p.m. on a Monday. Across town in the Glass House penthouse, she was about to lose. Maddie apparently watched the episode on 1.5x speed phone in one hand, green juice in the other. A mutual friend sent me the screenshot. Maddie's perfectly manicured thumb frozen over the pause button, face drained of color, lips parted like she'd been slapped. Mom blew up every number she could find: my assistant's cell, the office landline, even the general inquiry form on our website. 17 missed calls, 23 texts that escalated from "We're so proud to" "This is humiliating. Riley, take it down." Dad just sent one voicemail. I played it once. "Riley, call me. We need to talk about how you're portraying this family." I deleted it. By 6 p.m., the podcast hit 3.8 million downloads. Forbes article had 1.2 million views. My inbox was a bloodbath of investors, reporters, and old high school classmates suddenly remembering my name. I turned my phone face down, walked to the rooftop of the new loft, and watched the city light up green for St. Patrick's. Somewhere down in Cherry Creek, 3 people were realizing the story they'd sold about me for 13 years had just been rewritten in permanent ink. And I hadn't even played my best card yet. That one was coming in exactly 12 days when the Aurora foreclosure clock hit 0. I raised a glass of view to the skyline. Round 1 was over. Round 2 was going to be biblical. The 31st of March 2024. The day the hammer fell. At 9:03 a.m., the Dallas lender recorded the notice of foreclosure sale in Adams County. At 9:17 a.m., my Wyoming LLC Peakline Capital Partners wired $38.4 million to escrow. At 9:42 a.m., the trustees signed the deed transferring all 240 unsold units of the Skyline at Aurora Heights to Peakline. 58 cents on the dollar. Cash. No financing contingency. Cleanest distress deal the lender had closed in a decade. I was in the back of a black Suburban heading to the closing attorney's office in Greenwood Village when the final PDF hit my inbox. The signature page stared back at me: Riley Harper, manager, Peakline Capital Partners, LLC. I allowed myself exactly one exhale. Then I forwarded it to the one person who needed to see it next. Dad found out the way everyone in Denver real estate eventually finds out. The title rep called Harper Custom Homes to confirm the transfer and ask if they wanted to keep the construction trailers on site. Dad's superintendent texted me the play-by-play. He'd been in my Slack since 2021 and had no idea whose side he was on anymore. Super Greg just turned white as a ghost. Dropped his phone in the dirt. Kept saying, "Who the hell is Peakline?" over and over. By noon, the news was ripping through every commercial real estate group chat from Lodo to the tech center. Harper's Aurora project just got eaten in foreclosure. Buyer paid cash. Some out-of-state fund nobody's ever heard of. Dad apparently drove straight to his title guy screaming for the membership docs on Peakline Capital Partners. Wyoming LLCs don't require public disclosure of members. Dead end. He tried the lender next. They politely told him the buyer had already paid and the file was closed. Confidentiality agreement. Have a nice day. At 4:58 p.m., a runner in a navy suit showed up at 281 Dahlia Street, Cherry Creek. Same house I'd been thrown out of 4 months earlier. Dad opened the door in muddy boots and a North Face vest he'd owned since 2011. The runner handed him a single FedEx envelope, obtained signature left. Inside. 1. A certified copy of the recorded special warranty deed listing Peakline Capital Partners as grantee. 2. A cover letter on thick cream stock, my new corporate letterhead in understated black foil. Mr. Gregory Harper, Harper Custom Homes LLC. Dear Greg, effective today, Peakline Capital Partners LLC has acquired the fee simple title to the 240 remaining units and associated common areas of the Skyline at Aurora Heights. All construction contracts, warranties, and vendor relationships previously held by Harper Custom Homes are now terminated. Your site office trailer must be vacated within 14 days. We intend to complete the project on an accelerated timeline and preserve as many local jobs as commercially feasible. Should you have any questions, direct them to counsel. Respectfully, Riley Harper, Manager and CEO, Peakline Capital Partners LLC. P.S. The heated driveway still works great in the winter. Dad stood on the front porch for a long time, envelope shaking in his hand. Mom came out, read it over his shoulder, and started crying, not the pretty kind. Maddie was apparently in the kitchen on a work call and didn't even notice until Mom screamed her name. I know all this because the Ring doorbell still emailed motion clips to the old family iCloud account I never bothered to remove myself from. I watched the 4 Kelvins replay on my iPad while eating takeout sushi in the new loft. Dad looked straight into the camera at one point like he could feel me watching. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The man who told me I'd never amount to anything had just lost the biggest project of his career to the daughter he'd thrown out into the snow. And the best part, he still didn't fully understand what had just happened. He thought the nightmare ended with losing the dirt. He had no idea the real conversation was still 11 days away at a table he hadn't even been invited to yet. I closed the iPad, poured myself 2 fingers of Yamazaki 18 and toasted the city lights. Checkmate on the board. Now we talk. The 11th of April 2024. 11 days after the foreclosure deed recorded. I sent the text from a new number at 9:04 a.m. To Mom's cell, Dad's cell, Maddie's cell, all unblocked for exactly 4 minutes. Garden Grace. Private dining room, Thursday, 7:00 p.m. I have a business proposal that directly affects Dad's Aurora project. Come or don't. Your choice. No emoji. No love you. No signature. I blocked the numbers again before any reply could come through. Thursday arrived cold and clear, the kind of spring night that still bites in Denver. I walked into Garden Grace at 6:47 wearing a black Thoreau suit, no jewelry except the thin Cartier tank I bought myself the day we crossed $30 million run rate. The host knew me now. She just smiled and led me straight past the main dining room. The private room was perfect, dark walnut, low lighting, one long table that sat 12 but would only seat 4 tonight. I'd ordered the tasting menu ahead, no choices, no discussion. Bottles of 2016 Chateau Margaux breathing on the sideboard. Bill would be north of $3,000 before tip. I wanted them to feel every zero. They arrived at 6:58 together, like they'd rehearsed it. Dad first trying to look confident in a navy blazer that suddenly seemed too tight across the middle. Mom behind him in pearls and the same camel coat from the chase footage, clutching her handbag like a life vest. Maddie, last hair flat ironed to perfection, Louboutins, clicking face, doing that neutral rich girl thing she uses on difficult clients. The smiles were brittle, professional, the kind people plaster on when they know they're out of moves. Riley, sweetheart, Mom started already reaching for a hug. I didn't move. Just gestured to the chairs. Please. Sit. They Saturday. Dad cleared his throat. You look good. Successful. We saw the Forbes thing. Very impressive. Maddie nodded too fast. Yeah, congrats, Really proud of you. The words tasted like expired milk, but I let them hang there. The server poured water. I waited until the door closed behind her. Then I placed a single black leather folder in the center of the table. Gold foil on the front, Peakline Capital Partners. Dad's eyes flicked to it immediately. Mom's hand froze halfway to her glass. I let the silence stretch just long enough to feel expensive. You're here, I said, voice flat, because 11 days ago my company bought the note on Aurora Skyline. Paid cash. 58 cents on the dollar. Title transferred the same morning. Dad opened his mouth, closed it. Opened it again. Nothing came out. Mom found her voice first thin and shaky. Riley, if you're here to help your father, we can. I'm not here to help, I cut in calm. I'm here to inform. I flipped the folder open. The first page was the recorded deed. My name in bold. Second page, the termination letter for Harper Custom Homes construction contract. Third, a current appraisal valuing the finished project at $162 million. Dad's face went the color of the rare Wagyu about to come out. Maddie finally spoke, voice small. So, what does this mean? I leaned back, folded my hands. It means I own what was supposed to be Dad's legacy. It means every brick, every permit, every future closing now belongs to me. It means the three of you have exactly zero leverage left. Mom started crying quietly into her napkin. Dad stared at the deed like it might change if he glared hard enough. Maddie tried the little sister card. We're family. We can figure this out together. I smiled. Not warm. Just teeth. Family, I repeated. Like when you told half of Denver I was homeless, like when Mom drained 28 grand out of my account to buy you a Lexus. That kind of family silence so thick you could taste the tannin in the air. I closed the folder. I didn't bring you here to negotiate, I said. I brought you here to look you in the eye and tell you the game is over. From now on you stay out of my life. I stay out of yours. You never speak my name in public again. You never ask for a dime. You never show up at my office, my buildings, or my events. Dad finally found words. You can't just. I already did. I stood. The chair rolled back without a sound. Dinner's paid for. Enjoy the Margot. Consider it my last gift. I walked to the door, paused with my hand on the handle. Oh, and Maddie, your parking boot at the glass house I bought the complex last week. Lease is month to month now. I didn't wait for their faces. I just walked out into the Denver night, heels clicking on marble city lights, waiting. Behind me the most expensive meal of their lives had just turned to ash in their mouths. And I hadn't even started dessert. The 17th of April 2024. Exactly 1 week after the Guard and Grace dinner that never happened. I sent the second invitation. Same new number, same tone. Guard and Grace. Private room. Tonight 7:30 p.m. This time it's not optional. They showed up 8 minutes early, which told me everything. Fear is a hell of a motivator. I was already seated at the head of the table, black suit pressed sharp enough to cut glass hair in a low knot, no jewelry except the watch. The same room. Same table. But tonight, the only light came from the iPad in front of me and the city glowing through the window behind my shoulder. They filed in like they were walking to an execution. Dad first, eyes bloodshot, blazer hanging looser than last week. Mom next, no pearls tonight, face bare of makeup, clutching a crumpled Kleenex. Maddie last, Louboutins swapped for plain black flats, hair in a messy ponytail. She looked like she hadn't slept since the deed recorded. No one spoke. No fake hugs, no forced congratulations. I waited until the door clicked shut. Then I turned the iPad around. Slide 1. White background, black text, my new corporate logo top right. New owner, Aurora Sky, Residences 240 units plus commercial, Harper Growth Capital LLC. Riley Harper, Chief Executive Officer, effective the 31st of March 2024. Dad made a sound like someone had punched him in the throat. I tapped to the next slide. Slide 2. Still image from Chase security footage, the 15th of December 2023, 2:47 p.m. Karen Harper at the teller window, smiling, signing the withdrawal slip for $6,800. Timestamp and branch location in red. I let it sit there for 5 full seconds. Slide 3. Screenshot compilation. Asterisk Maddie's Instagram story, praying for my sister, she's really struggling, Tay. Asterisk Mom's Facebook comment. Sometimes you have to let them hit rock bottom. Asterisk group chat bubble from Cherry Creek Pilates, heard Riley's homeless now. I finally spoke. Voice low, even almost gentle. I didn't bring you here to yell. I didn't bring you here to negotiate. I brought you here to inform you the game is over. Mom started sobbing quietly. Dad stared at the table like it might open and swallow him. Maddie's hands were trembling in her lap. I leaned forward, elbows on the polished walnut. You have 2 choices. Listen carefully, because I will only say this once. I tapped the iPad again. A single page, 2 numbered options in 18-point font. 1. You accept reality. You lose the project. You lose the narrative. You lose me. We never speak again. You never use my name in public. You never come near me or anything I own. In return, I finish the building, sell the units, and walk away. No further action. 2. You choose humility. Public apology posted pinned unedited admitting everything, the lies, the theft, the rumors. Full repayment of the $28,000 plus 10 years of interest. If and only if you do that within 7 days, I keep 50 of Dad's old construction workers on payroll through completion and give them first crack at the finish out subs. I let the silence do its work. Dad tried first. Voice cracked barely above a whisper. Riley. We're family. You can't. I already did, I said. Mom reached across the table, tears streaming. Please, baby. We'll fix this. We'll do whatever you want. Maddie finally looked up. Eyes red, mascara smudged. For the first time in her life, she had nothing clever to say. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. 30. No one moved toward option 2. I closed the cover of the iPad with a soft snap. Thought so. I stood. The chair rolled back silently. Dinner's on me again. The Wagyu is excellent. Enjoy it. Dad tried one last time, voice breaking completely. Riley, I was already at the door. I paused, hand on the handle, and looked back once. For 13 years you measured my worth by degrees and zip codes and what you thought I lacked. Tonight you learned what I actually built while you were busy looking down. I opened the door. Oh, and the final closing numbers on Aurora just came in this afternoon. Projected sellout $162 million, profit after debt roughly $108 million. Give or take. Mom made a sound like a wounded animal. I stepped into the hallway, let the door swing shut behind me, and walked straight to the host's stand. I signed the check, $1,412.73, left a $600 tip, and never looked back. In the private room I left behind, 3 people sat in total silence while a $3,000 dinner went cold and a city full of their former friends refreshed their feeds waiting for an apology that would never come. Outside, Denver was bright and loud and alive. I slipped into the back of the waiting Suburban, rolled the window down, and let the spring air hit my face. For the first time in 31 years, I wasn't carrying them anymore. I was finally completely free. October 2024. 6 months after the night at Garden Grace. Denver had moved on the way it always does, fast, loud, and merciless. The Harper name used to mean something in Cherry Creek. Now it was a cautionary tale whispered over $22 old fashions at Tavernetta. Greg sold 281 Dahlia Street in late May. The 6-bedroom brick colonial that once hosted Junior League galas and Maddie's engagement-level Instagram shoots went for $4.4 million, well under ask. The new owners were a crypto couple from Austin who paid cash and painted the front door orange. Dad moved the family into a 1,972nd tri-level in Lakewood with popcorn ceilings and a view of the Walmart parking lot. The heated driveway was replaced by a cracked concrete slab that iced over every winter morning. Maddie's fall was faster and more public. The Lexus NX lasted exactly 9 weeks after the dinner. Repoed in the glass house garage while she was at a networking brunch. She sold it at Manheim for $19,000 under what Mom stole from me. Her condo went next, forced sale, 30-day close. She moved back into her childhood bedroom in Lakewood at 28, the same one with the faded Wharton pennant still tacked above the desk. Merrill Lynch put her on administrative leave in August. Turns out, using client appreciation gifts, think 5-figure bottles of wine meant for ultra-high net worth accounts to buy Bottega bags, triggers audits. The investigation was quiet, but Denver finance is a small zip code. Word spread. Her LinkedIn still says vice president, private wealth advisor, but the messages stopped coming. Meanwhile, across downtown, Harper Growth Partners took the entire top floor of the dairy block, 15,000 square feet of glass and mountain views, living moss wall, cold plunge in the wellness room. We hit incorporated 5,000 inches August at #1 with 3-year growth of 4.812%. The plaque hangs above the espresso bar where every new hire gets their photo taken on day 1. September brought Denver Startup Week. I keynoted the main stage at the convention center, Blue Bear outside, 2,000 people inside. I told the story again, no names, just facts, dropped out, built an empire, outgrew the people who said I never would. When I finished, the entire room stood. Not polite clapping. Standing ovation that lasted a full minute. I looked out at the sea of phones filming and thought, this is what undeniable feels like. Christmas Eve 2024, I was in the new loft wrapping donations for the scholarship fund I started, Second Chance Fund, $2 million seated full rides for Colorado kids who want to build instead of borrow. My phone buzzed on the counter. New iMessage from an unknown number. Long one. Mom. Riley, it's Mom. I'm using Susan's phone because you blocked all of us. I don't know if you'll even read this. We were wrong. About everything. Your dad cries every night in the garage. Maddie is not okay. The house is so quiet. I see your billboards on I-25 and I just pull over and sob. We lost you and we deserve it. I know apologies don't fix 13 years, but I'm so sorry, baby. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. No matter how long it takes. I love you forever. Merry Christmas. I read it twice. Let the silence settle. Then I typed 4 words, hit send and blocked the number before it even showed delivered. New phone who dis. I poured myself a glass of champagne, walked to the rooftop hot tub and watched snow start to fall over the city I now owned pieces of in ways they'd never understand. The scholarship fund announcement went live the next morning. $2 million for college dropouts and trade school kids across Colorado. The headline in Westward Denver's $30M Queen funds, the future her parents said she'd never have. Somewhere in Lakewood 3 people woke up to a smaller, colder Christmas. In RiNo, I woke up free.